crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with a video for Create a Smile Stamps. Create a Smile Stamps is having a comeback party. They haven't had a new release in a while, and so they are celebrating their new release, and there are competitions and prizes and free gifts with purchase and all kinds of things for you to check out over on their blog, which I will link in the video description below. And they're also celebrating today with a video hop where you can get a lot of great ideas for using some of the new stamp sets that I was just showing across the screen. And so there'll also be links about that in the video description and to my blog where you can find out even more details. So one of the stamp sets in the newest release had these hanging lanterns that reminded me of the paper lanterns you see sometimes, and I thought, well, since they were paper lanterns, it might be cool to try to make them from tissue paper and really mimic that look. It doesn't come across as that unique in the video. It kind of just looks like green paper in the end, but in real life I think it has a really cool effect. And also I'm going to take advantage of the translucency of the tissue paper later in the video. To get started, I am stamping the tissue paper, I'm stamping the lanterns on the tissue paper with some VersaFine black ink. I really think that any ink would do, but just because the VersaFine always gives me a good impression, I decided to use that one. Since the tissue paper is really thin, it will bleed through to your work surface, the ink will, so it might just be something to keep in mind. Don't have anything precious underneath. The paper lantern stamp set also comes with 2 lines for you to hang your paper lanterns from. Because I knew that I would keep this card a little bit more clean and simple, I decided to be sort of whimsical in putting the sort of curly-cued line instead of the more plain line. Here I'm using my Misty Corner to push the cardstock out of the corner so that the string can overlap on each side. I don't want to stamp the string such that it is the same on the top and bottom, so I just sort of move my cardstock over so that the twirls in the string don't line up. And I stamped each of these twice because I am stamping directly onto my card base, I believe, so I wanted to kind of get it right the first time, and that's why I decided to use my Misty. But I think that if you use VersaFine ink, you probably get a great impression the first time. I just prefer not to ruin my cards while videoing them and, take that extra time. So now I'm going to stamp the sentiment down the bottom. It says, "You shine so beautifully," I believe, and I just like that encouraging sentiment. That is a perfect sentiment to send to cards for hospitalized kids. I think this card would be great for an older kid, like a teenager, because sometimes there's I send a lot of really cutesy cards, and I want to make sure that I balance it out with some cards for older kids too. I probably should have thought a little bit more about the spacing before I stamped down the 2 lines to make sure that I could put some different size lanterns in between them. I found that most of the largest lanterns wouldn't fit between my top string and my bottom string, and I then filled in that area since I couldn't stamp the top string the way I wanted to. I said, well, I'll stamp some of the smaller ones, and I had to go back and add those to my tissue paper, but it wasn't too big of a deal because it doesn't take any time really to stamp a few extra onto the tissue paper. I wanted my paper lanterns to look like they were connected to the string, and so at the top of the paper lantern is a little area where it looks like the string should go, and I just drew that string in because you're just drawing a little loop, nothing to it. And I think it would probably be harder, honestly, if it was a stamp where it's quite easy to draw that little loop in, and I just drew it with that black pen. I think it's an Illustrated Faith pen, but they are the same as like the Pitt Artist pens, and they are waterproof just like the VersaFine ink. I decided that I wanted to have an odd number of lanterns on each of the strings, even though that wound up being it's an odd number in all, so there's 7 lanterns in all. I thought, rule of odds, that will look better. But like I said, I wanted to take advantage of the fact that you could see through the tissue paper. And I thought, well, it should look like the lights are glowing, like there's maybe a little candle in the bottom or something. And so I took a Zig marker. Because I had used VersaFine ink, I could not use Copics any longer. It would have stained my Copic tips and smeared the VersaFine ink. So I just grabbed a Zig pen and I created a little light coming from the bottom. That's probably not a great representation of how candlelight looks. I suggest if you want something a little bit more authentic, you take a look and Google some pictures online and, fuss with it in a different way. But I really just wanted to create a simple look of glowing, and I knew that it would be covered up somewhat by the tissue paper, so it didn't have to look perfect. It just had to give that impression of these lights being lit. And then I took the tissue paper where I had stamped the lanterns, and I covered it with Elizabeth Craft's two-way tape. I cut them out, and then I peeled the backing sheet off, and I'm going to place them all on top here. However, it is really fussy to get the backing paper off the Elizabeth Craft's tape with this tissue paper because it is so thin. So I didn't want to film that and waste all your time watching me fuss with adhesive, but as you can see, I just laid them right on top. Then I finished them off with just a bit of marker at the bottom because of the fussy cutting. Didn't quite cover the whole area. And then that was it for my card today. Remember, this is part of the comeback celebration and party, so be sure to check out the blog and the video description for more information, chances to win and see some fabulous inspiration and get free product, etc., etc. So, also products in the video description below. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. Bye.